Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iOS 27 is already at Beta 4 and Public Beta 2 as well, and Apple is rapidly improving iOS 27 and is finally making things right. Apple continues focusing on bugs, stability, and improvements in iOS 27, and many people are seeing the benefits. In this video, we'll talk about the latest Apple news, many new features, and the overall experience. Not just my experience, but your experience based off the YouTube community poll on the post page. At the time of this video, there's over 16,000 votes and 183 comments. I've gone over all the comments to determine what the update is like for most of us, so be sure to stick around toward the end of the video where I'll read some of your comments as well. Now, Apple announced that it's working with Ford this week to be a main map for navigations in Ford's Universal Electric Vehicle program. This is expected to release in 2027, and they released this on Apple Newsroom. And you'll see it here, Apple Maps to power the navigation experience for the Ford Universal Electric Vehicle program. So this is something new. Typically, people partner with Google to use Google Maps, and now we're seeing people partner with Apple for Apple Maps. So this could be a big change going forward. The iPhone driver's license is an option for many people in different states. However, not every state is covered yet. But based on Apple's back-end information found by Mac Rumors, it looks like we could soon see it updated for Utah. And what that means is under driver's license and ID cards, you can keep a copy here just in case you don't have your license on you. So that will be an option maybe very soon in Utah. So hopefully we'll see that as soon as this week. When it comes to emergency SOS via satellite, it's now launched in additional locations. If we take a look here, Apple has now launched it in Andorra as well as Iceland. You'll see here that it's actually mentioned in this emergency SOS, and they announced it on this website as far as one of the locations where it's available. So it's not available in every location, but again, it's in a few additional locations you can see here on iOS 26.4 or later on select devices. Also, something else that's been upgraded is Apple Care Plus with theft and loss coverage. It's now available in Japan. Again, they announced it on the Apple Newsroom website, and you can see it here. As of this past Tuesday, you can choose this particular option, and if maybe you lose your iPhone or it's stolen, they'll actually help you cover that. Now, Apple had a vulnerability in their Hide My Email feature that could expose your actual email address. Apple has said they've since patched this, according to 404 Media, as of July 3rd in an update. So that's something that's been patched and should no longer be easily exposed. When it comes to new features, there's quite a few more to talk about. The first one has to do with AirPods. If we open up the AirPods, maybe I'll place one in my ear here. We'll go into our control center. And within the control center, if we tap on our AirPods, tap on our listening mode, we can switch between adaptive and noise canceling. And within adaptive, we now have those additional options where we can slide back and forth from one to the other, adding a little bit more noise cancellation or a little bit more transparency. It also has the liquid glass effect. So that's something they've updated again within the control center. You'll also find that within your settings for your AirPods. There's a new setting for photos, so we'll go into photos and we'll use a shortcut to jump right over into settings. And if we go down to where our view options are, there's a new option for zoom photos to fill. It says slightly zoom photos that nearly match the screen's aspect ratio. You can enable this if you'd like, or turn it off if you'd like. There's also a new feature in the TV app settings. Again, if we scroll down, you'll see a new option for automatic downloads. It says the next 2 episodes of shows you start and continue watching will automatically download, then delete once you finish. So again, you can enable this or leave it disabled if you choose. If we go into our Siri settings and scroll down, there's a new option for preview. Within preview, we can select to preview 2 lines, none, all the way up to 5 lines. So anywhere between none, 1 through 5, and you can select that if you'd like. Turn it to none, whatever works best for you. If we go into Wi-Fi, there's an update there. Within Wi-Fi, we have Connectivity Assist. This part's not new, but if we go into a known individual network that we're connected to, you'll see we now have a new option individually for each Wi-Fi network that says use cellular data with Wi-Fi. Use cellular data in addition to Wi-Fi for a more reliable internet connection. iPhone keeps track of how much cellular data is used for Connectivity Assist. You can view your overall cellular data usage in cellular settings. So if you want to use that, it's now available. There's some visual changes in iOS 27 Beta 4 as well. Some of them have to do with individual icons. I mentioned that before, but if we slide over here and take a look at Wallet, it's very slight, but it's been updated from Beta 3 to Beta 4. So again, Beta 3 is on the left, Beta 4 is on the right. And again, it's very slight, but it has been updated. Another one that's been updated is the compass icon. Again, there's slight changes and variations here with more refinement. Another small change has to do with when you're in FaceTime. They've slightly updated the screen sharing icon. It's just a little bit darker. Another thing they've updated has to do with the volume slider. So if we go into our music, maybe play it here, turn it down, this is now affected by how you have liquid glass set. So depending on how you have the liquid glass set, it will be more translucent or more transparent and more like glass. When it comes to app updates this week, there's quite a few things to talk about. The first one is Geekbench 7. It now replaces Geekbench 6 and is much more accurate as far as what your phone is capable of. However, every time they change Geekbench, it typically lowers scores a little bit or changes the scoring system. So we'll be using this from now on, and we'll check that a little bit later. Also, WhatsApp announced some updates that are coming to Apple CarPlay and more. You can see it on their website where it says New Feature Roundup, sign up on iPad, WhatsApp in your car, and more. If you go into it, you can see all of the new features, what they have. It says revamped CarPlay and Android Auto, PDFs upgraded, and much more. Also, WhatsApp seems to be rolling out a redesigned message bubble on iOS. So you may or may not see that yet, but just make sure that you're updated if you want the changes. There's a couple other updates directly from Apple. So if we go into the App Store, Apple updated its Store app, you'll see here, to version 6.9 a couple days ago. And while it only says various improvements and performance enhancements, it seems like they've added an AI shopping assistant. So that's something that's available now. And also there's updates to the Invites app. So again, this is version 1.10.0. It was updated 3 days ago, and you have a few different updates. Hosts and guests can now react to replies with emoji so everyone can share the excitement as the guest list comes together. Also, a delightful confetti animation now plays when guests reply, making every response feel like a celebration. And of course, there's bug fixes and performance improvements. So make sure you update that if you use any of those apps. When it comes to releases this week, well, there's a new Safari technology preview. And on their website, if we go to download Safari Technology Preview, you'll see the latest version is version 248, and it's available for macOS 27 beta as well as macOS 26. So if you want to check out the latest technology or just preview it, it's now available. When it comes to future releases, well, now that we have iOS 26.6 RC, we can expect the public beta as soon as Monday. Typically, that's what Apple does unless there's additional issues. We can expect that Monday. However, I would not expect an iOS 26.7 or 26.8 or anything like that, as it looks like this could be the end of the line for iOS 26, as iOS 26.6 specifically sort of updates everything, it gets Spotlight Search ready for indexing with iOS 27. When it comes to iOS 27 Beta 5 and Public Beta 3, I wouldn't expect that probably until August 3rd at this point. At that point, then we'll probably move to a weekly cycle after that. But at this point, it looks like we're still on a bi-weekly cycle or release cycle. And as far as public releases, well, I would expect that probably in mid-September. So that's probably the next major public release we'll see, with iOS 26.6 being this next Monday. And that's probably about it, unless Apple has additional features or security patches or things like that that they need to push. When it comes to the next iPhone, well, of course, the iPhone 18 Pro is probably what Apple will call it, and we're only a couple months away from seeing it for the first time. It seems Foxconn, who produces the iPhone for Apple, has ramped up production according to My Drivers. This makes sense, as Apple now has to make millions of the next iPhone in time for the announcement and, of course, the public launch. So we should see that in just a couple months, again, around the iOS 27 launch. When it comes to the overall experience, let's first take a look at AirPods. Now, with the latest beta, I've been using iOS 27 Beta 4 with AirPods Pro 3, and it's been pretty great for me. I used it on my flight to the event I was just at for Samsung. No real issues whatsoever. However, I have heard from people that third-party notifications are not working properly. So I didn't really notice that, as I typically only use it for iMessage there, but I wasn't really getting any other notifications from that, so maybe that's why. So again, that could be an issue with iOS 27 Beta 4. When it comes to the iOS 27 Beta 4 experience, well, it's very smooth in general. Many people say the micro stutters are gone. It has better thermal performance. Dictation is improved, where random punctuation is no longer occurring. And AirPlay is much, much better, or AirDrop as well. So if we go into AirDrop, for example, we'll just AirDrop this. Maybe we'll airdrop it over to maybe the iPhone Air here. And let's see what we get. There we go. It's almost instant. So it transfers almost instantly, and there we have it. So it seems like it works much better this time. Any of those wireless connections as far as sending data or using it to screen mirror seem to be much better now. The settings app freezing bug seems to be resolved, so I haven't really seen a report of that again, so it looks like that's fixed. And even the DJI drone camera compatibility seems to be working again. Even though that's technically on DJI to update their app, we won't see those app updates until closer to a public release, but it looks like that's working again. Also, the keyboard is showing properly when maybe you go into search or things like that, and indexing is generally fast. You'll see here I don't show it. It went away after about a day or so, and it seems like it's much better. When it comes to RAM management, it looks like it's working okay. I do see that YouTube seems to reload a lot, music sometimes, but it's not a whole lot of apps. Usually third-party apps reload, but generally first-party apps seem to sometimes reload. I haven't opened weather today at all, so of course it's going to load, but generally it seems to be very fast and staying within RAM. When it comes to Apple CarPlay, it's working much better. I didn't have a single disconnect on beta 4 so far, so it seems like they've resolved that issue, but there are still some issues here and there. Siri cannot read health data, for example, so let's go ahead and try that out. How many steps did I walk yesterday? We'll see what it says here. And it says going over results, and we'll see what it says. Reviewing results, it's taking way too long. Typically this would just show up, and now it can't find any data. So this is something that seems to be a problem, at least on the current beta. Hopefully it improves very soon. It doesn't work on the watch for me either. I have to go right into the health app to see how many steps I walked. One issue I am seeing over and over myself is if maybe I'm bringing up the keyboard, whether that's in messages or something else, and I want to use voice dictation, sometimes the little microphone icon completely disappears. You can quickly fix that by going out, going back in, and it shows back up, but it's something I see happen fairly often. Others are saying that alarms sometimes sound even when they have it completely muted. Now that could be due to the new volume slider or something along those lines. And others are actually saying that Wi-Fi is still dropping for them. Now I haven't seen this so far with beta 4, but many people are reporting it. So it seems to be an issue. Whether that's related to the router you have or something else, though, we don't know at this point. Many people are still seeing the setup Siri prompt here in settings. Thankfully, it went away for me with beta 3 after I completed it. It finally just didn't come back. However, it seems to be returning for many people. Others do complain of Bluetooth disconnects. Again, I haven't seen that myself. And there's some people that are saying that the lock screen sometimes randomly shows the keyboard. So that's an odd bug, but again, nothing major. Some icons in Spotlight sometimes don't show as well, so you might bring up Spotlight and maybe some of the icons just aren't showing at all. And of course, we still have the Wallpaper Bug. So if we pull down here, let's get rid of this. You'll see it's nice and vibrant. Swipe up, and it desaturates a bit. Now, this is much more severe in beta 4 than it was in previous betas. In fact, it was completely gone for me in the previous betas for the most part. Shortcut automations still seem to be inconsistent for some, so if you're using shortcut automations, it looks like it's not working properly for many people. And sometimes auto brightness is inconsistent for me, more so on the iPad side, but sometimes maybe I'll be in a darker environment and it won't bring the darkness or bring the brightness down to a reasonable level. It's just overly bright. And so typically I have to either move it myself or turn auto brightness on and off again, or off and back on. So that seems to fix it. But again, it's a small bug. When it comes to iOS 26.6 RC, well, there's great news as most people are saying it seems to be pretty good. It's fixed most of the issues, whether that's battery, overheating, and thermals. Many people are saying it has much better RAM management. You'll see I just opened up music for the first time the entire day. In fact, I actually turned the phone on and it was still in memory. Now, TV wouldn't be because I haven't used it, but in general, it's actually still working very fast. Not a whole lot of issues, but it doesn't feel as smooth to me as iOS 27, but it is smoother in general. Some people do report lag from time to time, but I'm not seeing the major lag issues I had before where if you unlock and swipe, it was just very stuttery. But in general, it's much better. It's definitely the best version of iOS 26 as far as smoothness, battery life, and much more. But again, iOS 27 is just around the corner. Of course, iOS 26.5.2 is still out, and of course will be replaced with iOS 26.6 with new security updates, a few bug fixes and those sorts of things, and again, getting ready for iOS 27 at this point. There's still some holdouts running iOS 18, of course, and if you're happy with that, you're on the latest updates, you have the security patches, you should be fine. And there were some bugs, of course, but then they resolved those, and it seems like it's very stable for many people. So that's fine if you want to stay there. Just make sure you're updated for security to make sure that those patches are in place. But other than that, iOS 27 is looking quite good. When it comes to the overall heat and thermals, let's go ahead and take a look. We'll run benchmarks with Geekbench 7, see how it performs. Again, keep in mind the scores should be a little bit lower though. When it comes to overall thermals, if we take a look at iOS 27 Beta 4 on the iPhone 17 Pro Max, we just recalibrated there, and we're right around 35.7 or almost 36 degrees Celsius. On iOS 26.6 RC, on an iPhone 17 Pro Max, it's much cooler, right around 33 degrees Celsius. So maybe it's just not pushing the processor as hard as iOS 27 does, but it's staying generally cool, much cooler than an iPhone Air would at this point. We'll wait for the benchmarks to complete and see what we get here. Benchmarks completed, and you'll see the numbering system and sort of layout is completely different. On the left is iOS 26.6 RC, on the right is iOS 27 Beta 4. So we have 3,237 for single core compared to 3,121. Multi-core score is 8,826 compared to 8,264. Again, this is a much better real representation of what the operating system can do currently. Of course, once this is out of beta, I would expect this to bump up. But again, this is not the same scoring system that we had with Geekbench 6. So keep that in mind. If you have lower numbers, that's fine. That's what this one is actually going to show, and we'll compare that week to week as well. Now, when it comes to overall battery life, let's first take a look at iOS 26.6 RC. Thanks to Abhishek for sending this in. This is on an iPhone 16e with 92% battery health, and you'll see he had 7 hours and 43 minutes of screen on time, 50 minutes of screen off time using 85% of the battery. I'd say that's pretty great battery life for an iPhone 16e, so it seems to be doing well, and it should now that we're this far along with iOS 26. When it comes to iOS 27 Beta 4, I've been running it full time and I was traveling this week, and so we can take a look at how it's going. We'll take a look at battery health. I'm at 100% with 143 cycles. And of course, we can't see that information with Coconut battery, but you'll see what we have here. Now, as far as the overall usage, if we take a look at battery usage, go back to yesterday, I had 2 hours and 46 minutes of screen active time, 3 hours and 59 minutes of screen idle time, and used 57% of the battery. Depending on the day, it was getting about 4 hours of screen on time, maybe 5 if I was lucky. This is actually better than it was before, but it's still not great. However, 70% of users, at least in the comments, using iOS 27 Beta 4 and iOS 27 Public Beta 2 report better battery life than Beta 3 or previous updates. However, with iOS 26.6 RC, 100% of the comments so far say that battery is better than the previous versions and better than iOS 26.5.2. So hopefully that stays true after a few weeks. Now, when it comes to if you should install iOS 27 Beta 4 or Public Beta 2, if you're on previous versions of iOS 27 betas, absolutely install the next version. You can switch to the public beta, but so far they haven't been any different from one another. They're the same builds. The public beta just comes out later to make sure that everything's okay. Sometimes it's not, and they need to push a different build, but so far they've been the same. So I would say they're generally safe to install the public beta, but just make sure you have a backup and realize that you can only downgrade using a computer, or if you do have an issue and it won't restore, you'd need a computer for that. When it comes to overall storage, let's go into settings and take a look. Again, we'll compare 26.6 to iOS 27 Beta 4, and if we go to General and iPhone storage, wait for it to load, scroll to the bottom, you'll see iOS 27 Beta 4 definitely takes up more storage at 16.16 gigabytes compared to 14.44 gigabytes. Apple Intelligence is taking up the most space here at 19.29 gigabytes, and for me that's not an issue, but if you have lower storage, that's definitely going to be a concern. You cannot turn it off, and I do find it helpful, but just keep in mind it is going to use additional storage at this point. Now, when it comes to the overall experience and what you had to say, let's take a look at some of your comments. The Jaguar 6265 said, iOS 27 Beta 4, iPhone 17 Pro Max. Siri intelligence demonstrates inconsistent and inefficient performance when handling fundamental productivity tasks that have historically been reliable. Basic requests involving calendar, reminders, and clock frequently require repeated prompts, produce incorrect results, or fail to complete the requested action. These regressions significantly reduce confidence in Siri as a productivity assistant. Alex Voinia 2775 says, iOS 17 Pro, iOS 26.6 RC, way smoother than 26.5.2. No more heating and no more battery drain issues. Satan Matt says, iPhone 17 Pro Max running iOS 27 Public Beta 2, optimistic search in Siri finished after 24 hours. Phone is very fast and smooth, and battery life so far is very good. Had an issue with not being able to make calls, had to reset network settings, and occasionally have issues where, for example, the internet will not connect unless I toggle Wi-Fi off and back on again. Tech Pro 1234X3X said, I'm on iOS 27 Public Beta 2 on my iPhone 16e. The battery life is really good and the performance is great. Anybody on iOS 26 should update to iOS 27. By far, they've made the best update ever. Hopefully iOS 28 is even better. Apple, good job. Betsai said, working great on iPhone Air. Decent battery life, although not as good as iOS 26. WatchOS 27 Beta is a different story. Siri is very slow to respond and rarely works. Overall, though, I'm encouraged by how good these betas have been from the start. AndyMate 2006 said, I installed iOS 27 Public Beta 2 yesterday. So much better than Beta 3. So far, I haven't had any major issues this time like I had with Beta 3. The AirPlay is staying connected, apps have been working as normal, and the new Siri is working but still needs a lot of work, but overall, it's been positive. Now with iOS 26.5.2, basically we're just waiting for the next update at this point. Many people had good experiences with it early on, but then it degraded over time, and at this point, many people say it stutters, there's random bugs here and there, and it just isn't great all around. However, some people do have a good experience with it, but iOS 26.6 seems to fix many of these issues. However, for iOS 26.6, it seems like this is the end. Based off of the RC, and the public release we should see very soon, it looks like it's getting ready specifically for iOS 27, and once iOS 27 is out, since it supports all the iOS 26 devices, there's no reason for Apple to continue with it. It took until this point, though, for iOS 26 to get where it should have been from early on. So it seems like it's much better, it's smoother, it's faster, and generally very stable. But I just wish it took a lot less time for us to get here. With iOS 27, of course with Beta 4 and Public Beta 2, this is a much needed update and so much better than before. Apple continues to do a great job with the latest updates, the stability improves, and while it's not perfect, they've made huge strides compared to iOS 26. So I'm very happy to see the rapid improvement going from Beta 3 to Beta 4 with everything from apps, consistency with icons, fixes with liquid glass, minor improvements, and the attention to detail we really expect from Apple. So I'm very happy with it overall, and many of you are as well. And so that's everything with iOS 27 Beta 4, Public Beta 2, iOS 26.6 RC, and iOS 26.5.2. Very soon, we'll just have basically the last iOS 26 update, and of course the next version of iOS 27 very, very soon. Let me know how it's going for you, what your favorite features are, and which version you're actually using in the comments below, along with the device you're using as well. Also, if you found any additional features, I'd love to hear from you there as well. And of course, I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.